Good morning, friends. We are learning this subject, that is data mining 3160714. In that, we are learning our chapter 2, that is data pre-processing. Let us recall the summary of previous lecture, that is what we have done. In the previous lecture, we have seen the discretization methods, isn't it? And this was the last example which we have seen. Fine? Just recall that. Now, few more methods we want to learn for the discretization, isn't it? So, one more method, that is the clustering. What we do over here, that is, we can say partition data set into clusters based on similarity. The clustering k-means clustering algorithm example we have seen before, isn't it? Recall that. And store cluster representation, as for example centroid and diameter, isn't it? Can be very effective if data is clustered but not if data is smeared. Can have hierarchical clustering and be stored in multidimensional index tree structures. There are many choices of clustering definitions and algorithms. Fine. So, in detail about the clustering that we will see later, right? One algorithm we have already seen, and that will be considered as the part of your mid exam also, right? So now we want to study the algorithms of reduction, right? That's what we were studying. In that, now we want to know about the sampling. What is that? We already understand, right? That what is sampling? That whatever data is there, from that you are taking 2, 3, right? So samples. But only 2, 3 I am taking from few data. Is it fine? No. No. So what? For that, we can say obtaining a small sample S to represent the whole data set N. So randomly, if I am taking few items or few sample, is it the representative of your whole data? It should be, right? Obtaining a small sample S to represent the whole data set N. That means, suppose I want to get the data from your class, then I should have taken the data from your class representative, isn't it? So I'll be getting the data of your whole class. So what do we want to say is obtaining a small sample S to represent the whole data set N. Fine. Allow a mining algorithm to run in complexity that is potentially sublinear to the size of the data. Key principle. What is that? Choose a representative subset of the data. Whatever samples we are taking, they should be representative of the subset of data, right? Simple random sampling may have very poor performance in the presence of skew, right? Skew, we know that It can be having the graph where it is having, say, right side tail or otherwise left side tail, right? Okay, so if the skew is there, then simple random sampling may have very poor performance. Okay, develop adaptive sampling methods as for example, stratified sampling. Note that sampling may not reduce database IOs. That is, whatever we have to do the input output to the database, it may not reduce. We may have to do some processing and then after we'll be able to get the samples. Fine. So what are the types of sampling? Let us see that. Simple random sampling. We know that if skew is available, then random sampling will give us the poor result, right? But see, the way the algorithms are developed, over there we can say that first of all, the random things are being applied. Then after, modification to that is there. Then after, in that also, the modification is there. And this is the way by which we can say the improvements or the latest technology comes into the existence. Right? So, first of all, people, that is researchers, have given the algorithm of sampling, that is simple random sampling. There is an equal probability of selecting any particular item. Randomly, we are selecting. Say from your class, if I want to get the data, what I'll do is instead of asking to CR, I'll ask anybody, any 2-3 persons I am picking from your class and will ask, tell me, what is your review about this movie? What is the review about this subject? And anything like that, isn't it? So that is called the random sampling. Okay. Sampling without replacement. Sampling without replacement. Now, what is that? Once an object is selected, it is removed from the population without replacement. We are saying sampling without replacement. Typically, what we used to do is, say, in your class, I am selecting, say, 5 students. I am selecting 5 students. Say they are, you may not be able to see, wait a moment. Let us increase the size so we can have the idea, right? Suppose we have considered 5 students for sampling. Now what we want to understand is without replacement. That means once an object is selected, it is removed from the population. It is removed from the population. That means what? Once, say I have asked the data from the Sumit, then for next time, I will not consider Sumit. Okay. Then after I will consider, say others. Say in 5 students, say Anis is there. Then after say Ritika is there. Shreya is there. Right. Say Om is there. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Any other person, say Meet is there, right? Suppose these 5 students are there. Now, once I ask the data from Sumit, then after the population, this is our population. So from that, I'll remove Sumit. I'll not consider Sumit for further processing, right? Means Once I ask, now I'll ask others. Okay, something like that. Okay, so second one, that is what we have seen is sampling without replacement. Now, one more is sampling with replacement. So, what is that? A selected object is not removed from the population. Okay, reverse case of this previous method. Now, stratified sampling. What is that? Partition the data set and draw the samples from each partition. What we do is, say for your class, I want to get the data. So what I'll do is, partition the data set. Say in your class, we are having 3 rows of benches. In that, what I'll do is, from that partition, that is 3 rows, I'll be getting the data from, say, 2 students from row 1, 2 students from row 2, and 2 students from row 3, right? So what we do is, we partition the data set and draw the samples from each partition, right? It is used in conjunction with skewed data, right? Now, here you can say that sampling with or without replacement. Okay. So what is the case? We already seen that. Let us consider that we are having the population, that is the data, total data. What we are having is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? Here we have considered the potatoes, right? And all the values are equally likely to be chosen, right? Suppose that in this population, there is exactly one stack with each number. So the whole population has 7 stacks, right? If I sample 2 with replacement, then I first pick 1, say 14. I had a 1 by 7 probability of choosing that one. Then I replace it and then pick another. Every one of them still has 1 by 7 probability of being chosen. Isn't it? Every time what we do is, once I ask Sumit, then should I ask Sumit again? See, if he is chosen again, then you can say that he will be given the chance once again. And if I remove that particular thing, then I will not ask Sumit again, right? What we are considering is the sampling with or without replacement. So for that we are saying, first of all, sampling with replacement. What we do in that, that is, you can say, once you ask Sumit, then you forget. Then you forget it. Now again when I am asking, then at that time Sumit may be selected, right? Something like this is that. Okay. So what we can say that, what will be the data? Because now we are considering 2 times we are asking for the data. So that can be say 12, 12, 12, 13, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 16, 12, 17, 12, 18, 13, 12, 13, 13, 13, 14, and etc. Right? So this way we can have the data, and from that anything can be chosen, and that is the sampling with replacement. Fine. So here this very simple diagram is there, and with which we can understand the sampling with or without replacement, right? That was a mathematical example we have seen. Now with the picture, this drawing is very clear, and we can understand that very easily, right? What we do is here the simple random sample without replacement. Now what we do over there, you can say that you are having say blue color, white color and green color. Do we have the same color repeated? No, it is not available. So here what is the case? That is sampling with replacement. Over there you can say that same, that is Sumit, is available here, right? The same thing we are saying that the color is repeated here. Fine. So this figure is very clearly explains the sampling with or without replacement. So if you are writing the answers in the question in the exam for any particular such question, you should put the figure, right? See, this figure very clearly explains what it is. You can see in the exam, you do not have the different color pens. No issue. You can at least make dark. You can use the pen, pencil. Two things are only there. Then also you can do is, say here you want to show blue. You can use your pen and you can dark it. This can be the pencil, right? If you want to say draw one more, you can be drawing it with pencil and make it filled with pencil, right? If you want, you can make the different patterns inside that to differentiate between the data, isn't it? So the things are possible, isn't it? And as much clear figure if you are making, then you will get good marks, right? Whatever you have drawn, that you have to explain. Fine. So the same example is available here. Fine. What we have to do is, this is without replacement, where we can say that first of all we will be having the 1 by 7 probability. Then after it will be having say 1 by 6. Then after you can say that less than that, isn't it? So what is the difference? When we sample with replacement, the two sample values are independent. Practically, this means that what we get on the first one doesn't affect what we can get on second, right? We say that once we have chosen, it doesn't mean that second time that will not come. Fine, that can come. That is what is the sample with replacement. Fine. Mathematically, this means that the covariance between the two is 0. And what we say about the sampling without replacement, the two sample values are not independent. Practically, this means that what we got on for the first one affects what we can get for the second one, right? So mathematically, this means that the covariance between the two isn't 0. Fine. Very clearly, we can understand this. Fine. Now, sampling, that is the cluster also it is said, or otherwise it is stratified sampling. The method of sampling which we want to learn now is called cluster or stratified sampling. Now what is that? Stratified sampling is a probability sampling technique wherein the researcher divides the entire population into different subgroups of strata. That is the data, right? Then randomly selects the final subjects proportionally from the different strata, right? What do we want to say is, we are making the groups, or we can say we are partitioning the data, and then after we are selecting the data from that. Let us say Here we are having the full data, right? Full population we can say. We have divided that in three groups. First group, second group, third group. Now from all these three groups, we can select say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From these 5 data we have selected, here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll be selecting that. From here also we'll be selecting say 5 data, and then after we are having the decision. Right? The samples are taken in this manner. Fine. Now we want to do the hierarchical reduction. So for that, what we are doing, use multi-resolution structure with different degrees of reduction. Hierarchical clustering is often performed but tends to define partitions of data sets rather than clusters. Parametric methods are usually not compatible with hierarchical presentation. Hierarchical aggregation, what is that? An index tree hierarchically divides a data set into partitions by value range of some attributes. Each partition can be considered as a bucket. Thus, an index tree with aggregates stored at each node is a hierarchical histogram. Fine. So here we can see use multi-resolution structure with different degrees of reduction. What we are having here? Hierarchical structure where you can say that 23, 47, 90, right? After that, what do we say is, what is the next value for that? That is 98, right? So that's what is being represented here. 98, 123, 178. What is the next value? Where we should go? That is, you can say it is 339. So wherever it is, there you will see. Fine. 339, 521, 7, 6, 7. Now what is the next value where we should go? That is here, that is 839. So there we will go. Fine. Same way we are having the values. Fine. Here it is something like this. That means some more data is there in between. Fine. So this way we are having the data. Fine. So different label histograms. Say 5 beans, 20 beans. These things are there. Fine. And approximation of the equitab histogram. That means in each and every bean we are having same number of numbers, right? Same number of numbers. That means 333 for example in this particular example. Fine. Now next one is entropy based discretization. Now for that we can say we should have the entropy equation available. This we will use again in the classification. Okay. So what we do, given a set of sample sets, if S is partitioned into two intervals, that is S1 and S2 using boundary T, the entropy after partitioning is I of, that is information of S and T, that is equal to mod S1 by S into entropy of S1 plus S2 divided by S into entropy of S2. And how do we find the entropy? That is called the equation negative sigma I is equal to 1 to m pi log pi base 2, right? So this is the equation of entropy. This we will again use when we will learn the classification. Okay. The boundary that minimizes the entropy function over all possible boundaries is selected as boundary discretization. The process is recursively applied to partitions obtained until some stopping criteria. That means we can say that entropy minus information is greater than delta. What we do is we are having this entropy. We find that, and what we do is we minus this entropy, that is entropy minus information. Whatever information we have already found, that we will subtract from this entropy, and if the result is greater than whatever delta you have decided, then you can say that is the stopping criteria. Fine. So experiments show that it may reduce data size and improve classification accuracy. Right. This is what we will learn again when we will see the classification. Okay. Segmentation by natural partitioning technique. It is also one data discretization technique, right? So what we do for that? What is a discretization concept? There we used to say that it is the process of converting continuous values of an attribute into categorical data or partitions or intervals. A step of smoothing in that requires to find nth percentile of data. Fine. So what is that? Let us see how to find nth percentile of data. See, you can say, ma'am, you were teaching us the segmentation by natural partitioning, and now you are showing us the nth percentile, because the step whatever we want to do for this natural partitioning is having one step, that is to find nth percentile of data, and that is why we first take the example to find nth percentile, then after we'll see that particular algorithm. Fine. Okay, so let us see. This is the data given to us, that is the numbers, and the second one is the sequence. Fine. Say 168, 170, 174. This way the sorted data is there. If the data is not sorted, what we have to do is sort the data first, right? Numbers are to be sorted first. Okay. Now what we want to do is total number of data. That is what? It is equal to 10. We can see the number, that is a sequence, or we can say index of data. Okay, I am not saying that array. In that we are considering the index as 0. Here we consider the sequence number. Fine. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Fine. So total number of data is equal to 10. Find 20th percentile of the data. That means what? Let's see. For that, what is the equation? 20th percentile, that means 20 divided by 100, right? So 0.2 multiply by total number of data. Multiply by total number of data. What is total number of data? That is 10, right? Total number of data is 10. So what we do is 0.2 multiply by total number of data. So that is equal to 2. Fine. Now what we have to do is take the data at 2 plus 1, that is third position. This is the equation. That is, if we want to find the method, we can say, if we want to find, say, nth percentile, what we have to do is first of all, we have to do point n, because we consider whatever n is there, divide by 100, right? So do not consider it as point n. It can be say 0.01, whatever it may be, but you can say n divide by 100, multiply by total number of data, right? So whatever index comes, for that we need to consider the data that is at that whatever answer we got from here plus 1. And at that position, whatever data is there, that is a number available at nth percentile of data. Got it? Now say, let us see one more from this particular table so we can clear with that. Find 80th percentile of data. Now, 80 divided by 100, that is 8, right? Is it 8? No way, it is 0.8, isn't it? Okay, so 0.8 multiplied by total number of data is 10. So that is equal to 8, fine. Now, what is the index at which we should take the data to get the 80th percentile of data? That is, take the data at what is we got from this index plus 1, isn't it? Plus 1. So, we'll take the data at 8 plus 1, and that is the 9th position. What is available at 9th position? That is 188. And so we can say 80th percentile of data is having the number that is 188, right? At 9th position, we are having this number, and so it is 80th percentile of data. Fine. Now, segmentation by natural partitioning. For that, we can say numerical ranges partitioned into relatively uniform are easy to read intervals that appear intuitive or natural. What we say is numerical ranges partition into relatively uniform data, and what you say is they are easy to read intervals. Okay, we can understand that 50 to 60 is better than 51.223 to 60.812, right? It's previous, it is but obvious, isn't it? Now for natural partitioning, we should have the rule, that is 3-4-5 rule. Now what is this 3-4-5 rule? 3-4-5 rule can be used to segment numerical data into relatively uniform natural intervals. Now what it says? If an interval covers 3, 6, 9, 7 distinct values at most significant bit, partition the data, that is partition the range into 3 equi-width intervals for 3, 6, 9 or 2, 3, 2, 4, 7. What do we want to say? If the interval covers 3, 6, 7 or 9 distinct values at the most significant digit, partition the range into 3 equi-width intervals for 3, 6 or 9, or if it is 7, then we can have 2, 3, 2. That is 2 plus 3, 5. 5 plus 2 is 7, right? Okay. So whatever distinct values are there, according to that, we have to divide the data. Fine. If it covers 2, 4 or 8 distinct values at the most significant digit, then partition the data range into 4 equi-width intervals. Fine. One more is there. If it covers 1, 5 or 10 distinct values at the most significant digit, partition the range into 5 equi-width intervals. Right? So what do we say? That is, if we are having 3, 6 or 9 distinct values at most significant digit. If I am saying that 20 is there, right? Then what is the value at most significant digit? It is 2, isn't it? What we have to find it, if the interval covers 3, 6, 7 or 9 distinct values. So if I am having the range in that, we say that 30, 31, 32 is there. 30, 31, 32. Then we can say the most significant digit is 3. And what we say is, if interval covers 3, 6, 7 or 9 distinct values at the most significant digit, then what we do is, we partition the data into 3 equi-width intervals of 3, 6 or 9. Fine. And if it is 7, we can say that 7 is there. So we cannot divide it in, say, 2, 2, 2. We have to divide it in 2, 3, 2 parts. Fine. So for 2, 4, 8, we are having the 4 equi-width partition. And if it covers 1, 5 or 10 distinct values at the most significant digit, then partition the range into 5 equi-width intervals. Fine. So the example where we say that if the data range is negative 351 976 2 plus 470 00896. Now see, negative profit value is loss, right? If this data is given to us, now what we have to do is dealing with the noisy data. For purpose of avoiding noise, extremely high or extremely low values are not considered. See, the way these things work is extremely high and extremely low values are not considered. So first of all, we need to smooth out our data. So let us discard bottom 5 percentile and top 5 percentile of values. See what it says. For example, if I want to get the data about me, that is, you can say that students like my teaching of data mining or not. So what I do is, I have taken the data, but for that, whatever toppers are there, for them, and whatever totally poor students are there, from that 5 percentile, from top and bottom, I'll ignore. Because people who do not read properly, people who do not work properly, that is the 5 bottom percentile. At that, we can say that they may give only the poor teaching ratio, or you can say teaching quality is not good, or whatever they may give like that. Okay. People who are working very well, them, if I say small thing, then also they can understand, right? So they will say that teaching is excellent, great, this, right? So what we do is we ignore only the very good people, or people who are only saying excellent, and people who are only saying bad. So we ignore these people, right? And we take the data from the middle one. To them, Whether I am able to explain well or not, that is what is considered as the what we say is real decision data, right? From that, I'll be taking the decision, because what we say is the purpose of avoiding noise, extremely high and extremely low values are not considered. Fine. So for that, we need to have percentile. Fine. Now, suppose after discarding data, that is low, whatever low 5 percentile was there and high percentile was there, if suppose after discarding the data, now why I am saying it is suppose, because whole data is not given to you, right? I have just said that it is in the range of this to this. I haven't specified so many numbers and saying that this is the data. Fine. Otherwise, we could have found the 5 percentile that was using this particular example, right? So for that, but whole data should be available. Where just now I haven't provided the whole data. So what I am giving is, suppose after discarding data, new values for low is equal to this and high is equal to this. Now what we need to do is, here the most significant digit or MSD is at million position. Most significant digit. This is uh, what is the most significant digit? That is here 1, right? That is 1. Fine. Now what we have to do is, it is at the million position, right? It is at the million position. Next step is to round down low and round up at the MSD. So low, that is equal to negative 1 0 0 0 0 0 0, and high is say 2 0 0 0 0 0 0, right? We are not giving this number. What we have done is we are rounding it off. That is, you can say that instead of taking the range from say 5 point something and say 7 point something, what we used to do is we are taking it as say 5 and 8, right? This is what we are taking. So that's what here we are doing. That is, this is negative this one and this is positive this one. Fine. Now what we have to do? Just now what we have done is only the nearest values, because we want to have the range. That is naturally what we can read it, right? So that's what we have done here. Now next we identify the range of this interval. That is high minus low. So what is that? That is say 3 0 0 0 0 0 0, right? Now we consider MSD here, and that is what we can say is the range. What is the MSD? What is the MSD? That is 3. So what we have to do is we have to divide the range. We should have the range that is of 3, right? Interval we can say, right? We will be dividing this data into 3 partitions, right? So we can say negative this value to 0, then 0 to this positive 1, this number that is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and the third interval is 1 and 6 zeros, 2 and 6 zeros. Fine. So we know that what we have to do is we have to divide the data into 3 equal size intervals. Fine. So what we have done, just summarize this. What we have done, first of all, whatever data is there, right? What is there? We need to remove the top 5 and bottom 5 percentiles, right? Recall, top 5 and bottom 5 percentiles we remove, right? Now we are having the low and high. What we do now is we convert it to the natural range. That is, you can say that this is not proper range. Proper means you can say full number, we used to say full number, right? Where the zeros are there, means 100, 200. For say hundreds, we can say 100, 200, 300, right? So here, if it is say 1,59,000, so we'll consider it to have the normal value, right? Full figure, I mean to say full figure, right? So that's what we are doing, round down, right? Then after, what we have to do is, we have to consider the range. Now, according to the range, whatever is the MSD, for that, we will decide the intervals. As here it is 3, we'll divide the data into 3 ranges, 3 beans we used to say, right? So here we say 3 intervals, right? So this is what we are having. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3, right? Now what? You should be thinking how 0 can be part of multiple intervals. Yes. So what should we do? That is, here we'll consider the open bracket. Open bracket. Is it open? It is. It is open bracket. Yes. In the way that we are saying that this value should not be included, but this should be, isn't it? The parenthesis is used to say that do not include, and this square bracket is used to say that include it, isn't it? This is known to us, fine? So this is what we have taken. So 0 is available here only. It is excluded from this. This value is considered here, and here it is excluded, right? Fine. So we can see that this parenthesis and this square bracket. Fine. So now this 0 is only part of this interval 1 and not part of this second interval. Fine. So this is very simple example with which we can understand that, right? So that's all for today.